right, Brandon, would you like to do the introduction?
I would love to do the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of New School Republic Wrestling, the podcast. Dun, dun, dun. I am one half of your host, Brandon Petrie.
I think you're almost the whole host.
No.
Okay.
No.
And I'm Chris Schultz, and we are here today with a very special guest, Jason Burke, comedian, actor. Anything else you are?
I'm a poet, an actor, writer, activist, beach enthusiast, beer enthusiast, everything else.
Wonderful.
Nice. Excellent.
That's what we like to hear.
What sort of things do you activate?
I'm in the process right now of trying to start my own company in terms of a charity foundation. It's called Causes for Hope. And right now what I'm trying to do is to gather a crew that helps out with certain times of year. We do certain functions like clothing donations, toys for children in orphanages and things like that, disabled veterans and wounded veterans, things for them. So basically, I call it a foundation because right now it's just basically me out of my own pocket, just sort of donating things and giving time whenever I can. So I'm trying to turn this into an official thing. So I try and do a few drives a year and get bigger and get a team behind it.
Man, that is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, you could do like a lot of legal things to get that going too.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually gotten the process going of getting like an LLC and making it official yet. I'm still trying to dabble in the legalities and figure out how to go about doing that. But so far, I've been pretty blessed with a lot of positivity coming from it. I mean, I had a drive this past Christmas where I did a clothing donation, toys and clothes for veterans and kids, and I actually raised over $1,000 for it.
Awesome.
Wow.
Well, mark us in. We'll do something for you.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
We'll definitely help you out. But there's someone that we can help out, and I'll explain why. Would you like to take the lead, Brandon?
No, I wouldn't, because I like to see where you're going with this.
Well, there's a company we know. I think they might need your help, Jason. They may donate some wrestlers and talent and possibly some storylines, because TNA is crap.
Yo.
Absolutely.
Time and money is mostly needed there.
And some people say, well, who are you to judge? And you know what? It's been on for what? Almost 12 years now. It's 12 years. It sucks. I'm sorry. The company's garbage. And they have really just sunk themselves so deep that no one gives a rat's behind anymore. They really don't.
I haven't cared about the company since 2012.
You know, what's so sad to me about that is, not to cut you guys off, I know it's your show, I'm sorry, but
no. Actually,
cut it off whenever you want, man.
I get passionate because to be such a devout fan of the indies and a devout fan of very good wrestling, to see a company that has such talent as Austin Aries and Bobby Roode, and at the time, for a long time, they had Daniels and Kazarian and AJ and Angle, and for a company to have all this talent and to squander it away with bad booking and bad ownership and inconsistency just makes me angry. I mean, you've had all this opportunity to be able to go out there and present something different, a new product, the X Division, the six-sided ring, stand apart and do something special. And they've had all these guys and all these bookers and all this talent, and they've just pissed it all away.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
Sums it up. I mean, but see, that's typical TNA. And here's what I say. I said this on the last show of Eric Santa Maria, I believe. The problem with TNA is there's not one guy that owns the company, lock, stock, and barrel. He's got the money. He knows what he's doing. He's in on the business. He's a former promoter or wrestler. He knows how to write, how to promote, and how to get the whole ball rolling. They don't have that. It's just been flim-flam, and it's been like, well, they got money, they don't, and Jarrett's trying to get money from this person, that. There's just no, it's been a scramble from day one, and we talked with Eric Santa Maria, too. He made a great point. Instead of having two shooters to bring back like old style NWA, have Ken Shamrock against Dan Severn. Mm-hmm. They don't wait for Dan Severn to come available for the first show. They say, nah, we'll just have a gauntlet and let Ken Shamrock win. Instead of waiting and say, hey, you know what, next week we'll have Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn for the world title on our pay-per-view. Don't miss it. They said, no, we'll have a gauntlet, and it was like the wall against Ken Shamrock in the end. To me, that says right then and there, we don't have what it takes to get this going because we're not organized. We're not thinking clearly. I mean,
precisely.
I don't know.
My thing is, the thing about early TNA that was so cool is that you could turn on TNA and you saw two things stand out right away. You saw, number one, the X Division. You saw AJ, Low-Key, Jerry Lynn, Amazing Red, the SATs. You saw a bunch of guys that were either underused somewhere else or that were unseen by most of the world, so that the indie fans and the true wrestling fans that had the ECW, that hadn't seen pure wrestling in a long time, had their chance to see guys that could do things that nobody else could do, because Vince didn't have it. Vince didn't use his cruiserweights. So to see all these guys that could do these amazing moves and put on 5-star matches every week was special. And the second thing they had was the underused guys from other companies, like that they pulled R-Truth out. You know, he was Ron Killings, and he was a main eventer who had talent that was underused, and a bunch of guys like that. So every week they were presenting this different product with all these guys that actually had the chance to be main event superstars there where they couldn't be anywhere else. And now it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, there's...
Or gone to Japan.
Yeah. I mean, and they do something else with them because they know what they're doing over there.
Right.
Like TNA in 02, we talked about this on one of our other shows too. I was kind of insulted as a fan. They wanted me to pay $10 to see their promotion. I'm like, you know what? Piss on you. I don't care. And that was my opinion back then, because I'm like, you know what? I don't got $10 to spare. I'm in high school, and I don't care. If you want us to see your promotion so bad, get on TV. And it took them 2 years, which right then and there's your problem. You know, it's just the money's never there, and that's been TNA's problem from day one. I think the money isn't there, and it's just the organization isn't there. They're not. It's just so flim flam with them.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think the money is as evident of a proof as to why they're not succeeding right now more than anything else, because they have, for example, a situation where right now you have Hulk Hogan and Bischoff came in, and they tried this new regime, and they went out and they brought all their guys in. They spent all this money bringing all Hogan's buddies in, and then Bischoff tried to run the company through the book, and then they went out and did the whole touring, the touring impact, and trying to go to different cities and different buildings, and they didn't draw. And what wound up happening was they spent this crazy money on these contracts for guys. Hogan was there and never did much of anything besides this commissioner rule. He sat there. He didn't promote the company the way he was supposed to. He wasn't on TV half the time because he was injured, or he couldn't even wrestle half his matches. I mean, and then Bischoff was barely ever effective. So you spend thousands of dollars, and then that results now in, you have no central place to shoot the show. You have a ton less money than before. You have to eventually cut your cornerstones like Sting and AJ Styles, and you have nobody there that actually represents the company anymore.
Exactly, and I think Hogan's always smart though. He always just goes for the money and leaves. And I think he tried to a degree to help out, but I mean, you can't help the helpless.
Yeah, actually, I don't know about that.
I think it's 50-50 with him. I think he's all about the money, but I think he did definitely help some guys too, though. I mean, he definitely helped Abyss. If you look what they did with him, and he helped him.
Oh yeah, Abyss grew.
Yeah, I mean, he helped the guys grow. Jeff Hardy helped grow, which I don't know if that was the best. You're banking on a guy that.
Is he still clean?
I don't know. You can't bank on guys like that. That's like a Jake Roberts in the '80s situation. If they're not clean, they're not with their head on straight. You can't bank on them. You can't depend on them. But I get what Hogan was doing. But the problem was, to a degree with TNA, you can't bring a whole bunch of 40-year-olds in and expect this thing to work. I mean, you got to go with the younger guys. But you know what, though? Sometimes I wonder, are a lot of these guys verbally as talented as they are physically? I don't know. And I think that could be some of TNA's problem. I said that from the get-go of AJ. I said, you're banking on the wrong guy, because that guy cannot talk on the mic, and you can't get behind him. And I don't care what anybody says. I was never sold on him. I would never buy a ticket to see him, and he was unbelievable to me, because he's 5'6", 5'5", and just nothing. I don't see charisma. I don't see good mic skills, which I don't care if you have them or don't, but you don't have anything to make me buy a ticket. I always wanted to see someone else instead of AJ Styles.
I never had a problem with AJ Styles. He was there. Yay.
That's about it, though.
Yeah, that was about it.
Do you miss him? Does it matter?
I think it's interesting now with post TNA and what he has to say and the stuff that he's doing in Japan right now with the Bullet Club. I think that's really interesting. Yeah. But whose fault's that? Did AJ Styles get this interesting in Japan, or did TNA stifle him?
I mean, I just feel like they threw the book at us with him, and it just got to be too much. Like, I don't care anymore.
Was he TNA Cena?
Yeah, I think he was. It was too much, and he just didn't have that charisma to carry it, and that was the problem. I think guys like maybe Samoa Joe or somebody else, Monty.
Well, they screwed up Joe big time.
They did, and it was all ego and putzing around. It all goes back to there's no direction. I could compare TNA to the Jim Crockett promotions. Jim Crockett promotions knew what the hell they were doing for most of the part. They got all those guys over. TNA, we got what would be kind of comparable. We have like those, elite 12, 14 guys we want to use, but we don't know what to do. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, and I mean, part of the problem is twofold. There's 2 points here. When Hogan and Flair and Bischoff and company came in, they had this big revolt where, the NWO came in and Sting was back in the rafters, and they tried to do this 2010 throwback to the Attitude Era, and that's all good and fine if you're going to use those guys to get new guys over. I mean, the idea is always making money in the business, right? So your biggest blueprint is take the established guys and have them somehow, whether it's teaming with them or going against them, have the new guys make money, make the new guys stars. And part of the problem was the old guys were trying to make the new guys stars by making them the same people they were. Like, for example, Ric Flair managed AJ. He should have had the gimmick of, well, AJ is the new athlete of our generation. He's the new guy that can do things that nobody else can do, just like Flair was in the 80s. He was the spectacular wrestler. But instead, he made AJ dye his hair white or blonde or whatever the hell he was. He wore a robe to the ring. He did the chops and the wove and the figure four. That's not who AJ is. The same with Abyss and Hogan. Hogan endorsed him by saying he was this big monster. But instead of making Abyss this unique guy that wore the mask and he was true to his character, he tried to make Abyss the next Hogan. He put the stupid Hall of Fame ring on him, and he made Abyss Hulk up and turned into Hogan 2000 and, whatever, the new version of Hogan. Instead of Hogan endorsing Abyss for who he was, he tried to endorse Abyss as the next Hogan. And those things aren't going to work anymore. Those ideas are outmoded now. It's 2014. We need new ideas and new gimmicks.
I think they're out of the ideas, and that's the problem.
They've been out. Yeah, and Jason, that was eloquently put because, I don't want to see Hogan Jr.
Right.
Why couldn't we see Abyss as, this crazy monster endorsed by Hulk Hogan? Abyss Hogan.
Yeah, it shows you that, Hogan is not as smart as they think he is. I mean, but who knows if that was solely Hulk Hogan's booking or somebody else's too. I don't.
Right.
It's easy for us to just, bash everybody, but, behind the scenes there's a whole turmoil going on. But
Russo.
Russo. It's everybody's fault, though, because you know what? If you had an idea and you had the company and you had an idea what you wanted to do with it and you were in control, then why didn't you screw it up, And it all goes back to Jarrett giving all that power to Carter and all that. That screwed everything up, man. But what is your opinion, Jason, about AJ Styles? What do you think? Was I on the money, or did you think, I don't know. I get sick of him. I
think for me, the thing that caught my attention about Styles was that when I first saw him in 2002, when ROH and TNA were starting up, he was our generation's kind of Shawn Michaels in that, I don't want to overstate this, but he was doing things that nobody else did. He was taking the high flying and the innovation to a level that nobody had seen before on a mainstream level. So he was, this young, small guy, this underdog character that was main eventing shows and winning titles on national pay-per-view. So I thought it was really cool. He did eventually get to the point where he was kind of getting played out because he had done everything there was to do. He was TNA's Triple Crown champion, 7 times or something. So, I mean, everything that he had to do was already done. He definitely does not have the charisma or the mic skills. Absolutely not. I mean, he definitely lacks a lot of star quality power. Like, he's not a John Cena. But at the same time, his wrestling ability was so good that purists like myself kind of look at his work and say, well, I don't care if he can talk or not because he's fucking entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. I think the problem with him is, though, if you're banking the company on him, you're not gonna make money off.
Okay, well, I think you could, but you have to put him against the right guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's always gonna be someone else leading him. It's like a Chris Benoit scenario.
Okay, and that's fine. But AJ Styles had Chris Daniels, Frankie Kazarian. Who else am I missing?
Well, there's Samoa Joe. I mean, if you do with him, Jerry Lynn in the beginning. A lot of guys. And that's the thing. Right, I mean, he's never going to draw a crazy CM Punk kind of promo or even an Austin Aries kind of promo. He doesn't have that kind of. He has the Georgian kind of accent. He kind of has the lazy vocal ability. It doesn't seem like he's going to get you super excited about anything. But at the same time, he was like TNA's golden boy. He was the one guy that could at least, they could say TNA made somebody. TNA turned somebody into a star and gave some undersized kid a chance to be a champion. And so that was the one thing that they really could bank on with him, was that the fans were behind him, because that Nashville crowd, as dead as it was most of the time, they actually got excited when AJ was diving off ladders and things like that. So at least you had the highlight reel that was AJ. Yeah, I think TNA's problem, too, has been the inability just to pull the trigger and say, all right, this is going to be our guy for a while. I mean, they just depend too much on ex-WWE guys and Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett made me not want to watch the show. He was a champion, and he was in the title reign way too much. He was in the hunt all the time. It was just too much Jeff Jarrett.
Right, yeah, and the thing about it is, I mean, for me at least, I think it's the inconsistency of the product in terms of the characters week to week. I mean, if you try and watch 4 Impacts in a row, you're better off trying to watch. You're better off trying to watch the Saw series in fucking reverse. It's ridiculous. I mean, TNA will make your head explode. If you try and watch their product, you have no idea who's a face, who's a heel, who's in between, who's a manager. They change faces and heels so much. It's ridiculous. You have no idea who stands for what anymore.
Yes. Yeah. It's mind-numbing. And I mean,
it's sloppy, right? I mean, whoever's doing the booking there, they need to get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, a good point was when Dutch Mantel was booking that Knockouts division. You talk a lot about this, Brandon. Wasn't that awesome?
I loved it. When the Divas still can't, they can barely have the Divas title. But at one point in TNA's history, the Knockouts were so good they had tag titles. Unbelievable. And it was great wrestling. Now, I haven't been in their website in a while, but the last time I was there, I mean, that number has dwindled down to 7 knockouts.
Yeah,
that's barely any sort of a knockout title, you know. And a lot of those knockouts now, they don't wrestle.
Yeah, the thing too that I'm not sure if you guys are current on the product. I'm sure you've done your research, but right now Christy Hemme is the one that's booking the product, and that's part of the problem. Is that she came in.
Oh my God!
No!
Yeah.
No. I refuse to believe that. My brain has rejected that so hard. Christy Hemme can't be doing the booking. Are you serious?
Yeah, I swear to God, that's the word going around right now. John Gaverick, when Big came in to do the pre-tapes and production, John Big Gaverick from Tough Enough is doing the booking, and he hired Christy Hemme to do the Knockouts booking. And so that's who's in control right now. And that's part of the problem, because she came in through the Divas search, and she has no prior connection to wrestling or booking or anything. She wrestled maybe 100 matches in her career, and now she's taking the book for the second biggest company in the world.
I can't believe that.
That's scary.
That's very scary.
Oh, trust me, I'm not advocating it to be a good idea. That's what I'm telling you guys is going on right now, and that's part of the problem, is that you still have some characters in the Knockouts division that can wrestle. I mean, the Beautiful People are still good characters and still have a good aura to them. You still have Gail Kim that can still wrestle. But I haven't even seen a lot of the recent stuff because I just can't follow it anymore. I mean, they've done so much cutting and chopping of the good part of their roster that made them a big deal, and they're spending all this money bringing in fucking King Mo, and they recently brought in Gene Snitsky and Ezekiel Jackson. I mean, are you kidding me? Are these guys going to be your saviors?
Nah, I just read they're like a one-shot deal, which is fine by me. But King Mo, and I'll say this again, I'm sick of TNA's like wasted time like promoting people we don't care about. They're irrelevant to the business, and we should not invest our time in them. It's like when they brought in Pac-Man Jones for that tag spot. That was garbage. Hermie Sadler, all that NASCAR rubbish. We don't care. We want to watch wrestling. If you're going to bring celebrities in, get the money, spend the money, and get someone we actually care about, Well, they had Chris Rock on one time, which is okay, but that was on pay-per-view. I mean, who saw that? Who remembers it? No one.
Johnny Damon hit someone over the back with a chair.
Yeah.
With who's the little fuck from the St. Louis Cardinals, the MVP?
AJ per something.
No. AJ Prisky.
Yeah. But who cares? I mean, it was never like big news, national news. They waste time on stuff where it's wasteful, and you're taking up someone's precious airtime. Like Johnny Fairplay and all that. It's ridiculous.
Well, here's what I think Dixie was trying to do with that, the whole King Mo thing and all this. Brock Lesnar was, a wrestling champion in high school and did the collegiate circuit, and then came in and became a world champion in WWF at the time, and then he went away to UFC and became a big deal there and came back. And so I think Dixie kind of wanted a version of that for her company. But what she failed to realize was, number one, Brock was actually a trained wrestler and was good at what he did. Number two, Brock actually got heel heat and became an actual character. Number three, UFC was on national TV and pay-per-view, so UFC had a big following. So that's why it all worked. It was able to conglomerate two different ideas and amalgamate two major forces in mixed martial arts and wrestling. But Dixie's bringing in guys that were either have-beens or that never were, because she's bringing in King Mo, she's bringing in Tito Ortiz, Rampage Jackson, these guys that are either retired from UFC and they're on Bellator now. And that's what I mean. Like, she's bringing in guys that nobody watches Bellator. Nobody knows who these guys are in wrestling. And if they do, they know them as being has-beens. And she's bringing these guys on to these big deals. And they never wrestle any matches. They've been under contract for, 6 months to a year. They've appeared twice on TV.
Like, King Mo, they were hyping him. They showed him at Bound for Glory like 2012. And we hadn't seen him for like a year since that. And then he came once. It's just stupid and a waste of time. Like, it shows you this woman has no idea what she's doing. And it's easy for me to sit behind a table and talk on a mic about it. But, I mean, Jesus, I think I could book a better card than she could. I mean, common sense could book a better card.
I could book a better show using action figures.
I mean, it's unbelievable how bad this product has gotten. I mean, it's just... And it was funny, they had like a TNA Impact Ask the Questions. And I was like asking it was like some corporate guy or whatever for TNA on their Facebook page. And I was hitting him hard with questions, and he couldn't deny that, the product sucked, but he couldn't say that it did either. So he was like, pussyfooting around with, questions, but I'm like, your show's horrible. And I asked them detailed questions and stuff, but they can't come up with anything. They can't tell you how it is.
I'm sorry, I have to throw this out there real quick. It was David Eckstein who was the Cardinal shortstop, not the catcher.
Okay.
That's just my craziness come into play. But yeah,
we don't even have, I think, 30 guys on the roster. I mean, it's pathetic.
Right.
And I'm sick of them rehashing ECW. I'm sick of them rehashing WWE guys, and I'm sick of the Dudleys and the Hardys getting shoved down our throats every time,
Well, I like Bully Ray.
Yeah, I'm just tired of them, though. I'm tired of that. I want to see something different,
I think part of the reason for that, I totally understand kind of being played out with guys that were big in, whatever it was, 2003. But at the same time, they realized that they had done that, what was the baseball park show they had done that sold like 200 tickets or something like that. They had 75 paid people in the crowd. So I think they realized that this is New York City. If we don't get a big crowd for these tapings, we're going to be in real trouble here. So I think they had to pull out all the big names and try to work the casual fan back for a little while with the Hardys and Dudleys and a couple of those other big names they brought back. So I think that was just trying to save face and trying to show they could actually sell some tickets for once.
Well, the problem is, too, there's no promotion. I never heard a radio ad, a TV ad, any kind of newspaper ad, or even any other kind of spot. They never, like when they come here, they don't come close. It's always 45 minutes to an hour away. They're never in Pittsburgh, and that's what gets on my nerves. They're either in Rostraver, Washington, PA, or like Cheswick. Nothing relates to the city, or it's even close to it. So, like, if they're saying they're coming to Pittsburgh, come to Pittsburgh. Be somewhere, get the convention center, get somewhere here, because it gets on my nerves when they say, oh, we're in Pittsburgh. They're not.
That was a big gripe of AJ Styles, is that he would go working out. He was working out in the gym on more than one occasion all across the country. And it's like, oh, I had no idea the TNA was in town.
Yeah, no one knows. They never advertise it. They never have wrestlers on local shows. They never have commercials. There's nothing. You never know. Not even a freaking poster anywhere. Indie shows promote better than they do. And that's why they don't draw crowds. No one knows they're there. It's terrible.
I mean, part of the thing is that they're still, after all this time now, it's been 12, 13 years they've been around, and they're drawing sometimes as low as a 0.9, 1.0, Some of their spike weeks are like 1.3 is the highest they get because, like I said, the inconsistency of every single week. You build these big storylines and then you squash them. Like, for example, Eric Young was TNA Knockouts champion with ODB, and he was doing a comedy gimmick where they were married and whatever. They won the Knockouts tag titles, and he goes away, comes back with a big beard, and he's doing the turkey suit gimmicks and all this. And then without any sort of won matches, any sort of big hype behind it, he comes back out of nowhere and he becomes world champion. It's like, what? You booked this guy as a comedy joke for the last 3 years. He's your Knockouts tag champion, which is held by Divas, and he wears a turkey suit, and now he's going to come out, and he's going to be your Savior world champion, this big deal with no promotion, and then a month and a half, 2 months later, he's going to lose the belt. There's no point to any of it. It's all useless.
Yeah. I like Eric Young. I mean, funny equals money, and he's a talented guy.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know what they did with him.
It's nothing against Eric Young. I mean, he's a hard worker, and he's a likable guy. He's a nice guy, he seems like. I mean, he does whatever they ask of him. It's just you can't push a guy as a joke for several years and then try and say all of a sudden with any change of direction, oh, take this guy seriously as a world champion. And then you try and build him with that world title win, and then less than 2 months later, he loses the belt again. So it doesn't mean anything.
Well, it just hurts the company more and more because like they say, well, with these tapings, we'll talk about that too soon. Oh, we're trying to make it up to you. No, you screw up so many times. It's hard to make up. And it's like, where the hell's the television title and who's the champion? Is it Abyss? Is he not the champion? Is it coming back? Is it the global title, the international title, the Impact title? We don't know. Legends title, whatever it wants to be this week. I mean, so you're not. It's almost it's pathetic. It's downright pathetic. You're a national company, and you can't even keep track of your belt or what the hell you're doing with it.
Right.
Who the hell's behind the scenes? I want to smack everybody.
I mean, when I was like 10 years old, I had this backyard pool wrestling company, as we all did as kids. And, it was JPW, it was Jason's Pool Wrestling. And I swear to God, on my mother's life, our pool company that shot once a month had more continuity than TNA's fucking storylines do. There's no continuity to it.
There's nothing. It's not like one thing where they'll phase a title out or something. Like WCW used to do that with the light heavyweight title and stuff like that. But they just don't even recognize. It just vanishes. I mean, there's just no, like you said, continuity. There's no consistency. It's a nightmare, and it's like how you can't make up too much more. I mean, people just don't care.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, decisions like trying to let go of Chris Sabin and Daniels and Kazarian to hire people like, the Bromans and, nothing against those guys, but I mean, your roster's filled with a bunch of guys like Bram and people that nobody's heard of before and nobody wants to get to know because there's no good character to them. I mean, you have the Menagerie now, which is Mike Knox, who lost his size and has nothing special about him. You have Rob Terry, who could never wrestle, who was always as boring as a paper napkin. You have this Menagerie is like this iodine ICP wannabe gimmick. Nothing is worth watching anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's going to draw the fans in. It's an embarrassment to wrestling, really. And the problem is, there's no leader. There's not that one guy that's going to be the leader and the owner of the company, and it's just going to change for good. It's just such a nightmare, and it's just embarrassing. I mean, the Menagerie, if it was some kind of creepy, weird cult with James Mitchell as his manager and they did some weird things, then sure.
Yes.
But, I mean,
You're trying to knock off ICP. Come on, man.
Rob Terry's mask looks like they bought it at the dollar store. I mean, it's nothing, or Party City. I mean, it's just, there's no reason, there's no purpose, there's no manager, there's no point. And I don't know where that's going, but it's pretty much heading towards the garbage can.
And I hate to overly jump around and become non-linear here, but I mean, another example of that is... Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm kind of following Dixie Carter's fucking booking sheet here, but I mean...
Sure, there you go.
I feel like part of the thing, like MVP, for example, he comes in, he brings the American Wolves in, everything looks like, okay, they're starting to turn things around a little bit. They're going to reboot for the 12th time already. He's going to be this big face that's going to lead all these guys in, and he wants change because Dixie Carter's character's been on for a year, and he's tired of seeing the way she does things. Within a month and a half, if even that, he turns heel and becomes the same thing she is, and now we have two heel groups going around nobody cares about.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it pointless, and I'm just sick of the whole, we have to have a heel commissioner, we have to have a general manager, whatever the hell they are. I don't think we need them, period. I think we should need wrestling.
I thought that whole thing was overdone when WWE did it in 2003.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm kind of fed up with just wrestle at this point. If you want to have a governing body, that's fine, but don't have them try and screw everyone over every week. McMahon did it. It was okay, I can see what they're doing here. And when Bischoff tried to do it, especially in WWE, it kind of ruined the whole idea. It just made it stale and not interesting. Not even from a dramatic standpoint. Not even as Bischoff being a good foil to the faces. It was just sucked.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It should have been WWE against WWF, but that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about the commissioner, the evil owner kind of gimmick was that Vince McMahon did it. He had Stone Cold Steve Austin as his foil. Those two worked so well together and had such good chemistry. It was lightning in a bottle. Oh, yeah. So then ever since the Attitude Era, when Austin McMahon was the top feud of that time, everyone's trying to knock it off and just they're going to have these general managers against a big face or vice versa. But it's not going to work because you have, one of the best faces of all time in Stone Cold Steve Austin and the best, evil character you're ever going to have in Vince McMahon. So, I mean, you have these two charismatic guys going back and forth. It's believable and it's intense. And it was at a time when that sort of storyline, worker against boss, actually made sense. Nowadays, they're doing it every other week with different people, and there's no charisma and there's no connection in the characters. So you can tell that it's all fake.
Yeah.
I think TNA did it right when they had Jim Cornette as the commissioner type guy, because he wasn't he was there, he'd make some matches, but it wasn't in your face constantly.
Yeah.
He was behind the scenes more, and they need to stop doing these interviews in the ring and wasting all this precious time. Do it in the back, stay in the back, have the commissioner in the back, just promoting a match. Like you have the commissioner saying, "Oh, it's a hot match tonight. We got the X Division. We're having Chris Sabin, and we're having Low Key go at it. Oh, it's gonna be something special." Then he comes on again. Make sure you watch that X Division match. I'm telling you, the talent's tight. We got it going on, and that's all you need him for. You don't need all this crap and hoo ha and everybody running around. It's just
I think,
and even
I think for me I'm sorry, yeah, we're talking over each other, but I think the last effective commissioner they had in wrestling that I've seen was Mick Foley. I think Mick Foley was good because his backstage skits and all the stuff that he did with Sacco and the cat holes and all this stuff, I think it was actually funny and added to the characters. He got a bunch of undercard guys over, and that was the last time they was actually used the right way. He wasn't in our face 24/7. He wasn't in every other segment. He wasn't overpowering the wrestlers and getting himself over. He was getting others over, and that's the point.
I liked how they phased him out of being commissioner too, with that 6-way Hell in a Cell match. Because that was just like, okay, now he was fun and games and it was really cool, and then he just did like that really crazy, like, oh, I really question this guy's judgment. That was interesting. Like, was this such a good idea for commissioner to do? I thought that was really interesting. It was intriguing. And it kind of blurred the line for Mick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it gave the character something new to do, and it kind of created a new depth for him as well. I mean, that's the thing is, Wrestling 101 is very simple. You want to create a feud with two guys that you really want to see fight. You want to see a charismatic face that is fighting from the bottom, that is overcoming the odds, that is going to make your company money. You want to be able to cheer for that guy, and you want to have him face this heel, this dastardly guy the fans want to see get their ass kicked. That's the whole idea. You want them to have two guys together that are going to click well and make money. And they're trying to muddle the lines so much and do all these complicated things that aren't working for anybody. Wrestling is simple. You want to make money.
Yes.
I think TNA wastes money. And the problem, too, is, you just need to go back to basics. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if there was no commissioner in TNA and it was just wrestling?
Yeah, they're going to have to do something interesting with that. And don't give them some silly name. Not the commissioner, not the president, not the general manager, not the COO, not the CEO, not the, dog catcher of the week. Just the
representative of TNA or something
right.
like that. And it goes back to the announcing, too. I think the announce team needs to go. I think there needs to be a good announce team. And I think there needs to be more interviews with like an announce team or announcer backstage. And I think you just symbolize it. Like I'd watch WCW Saturday Night for years. They never had a commissioner. No one cared. Nitro never had a commissioner. I mean, until J.J. Dillon came, but he made a few matches here and there. But he wasn't like this, wasting all this time. Like he had a reason, he had a purpose, and he was there. Like so, I mean. There's other ways to get around this, and I think what they need to do is go back to basics, make the titles matter, make the wrestlers matter, and promote both. And I think they'd be in a lot better shape. And quit relying on past storylines and ECW. I guess we should go to New York tapings. I'm sick of ECW. I love the company, but I'm sick of them going back to it. I'm sick of them bringing those old guys in that can't go anymore. And I'm tired of it. I don't want to relive it anymore. Thank you for ruining it for me. I don't care about the Dudleys. I don't care what they did. I'm done with them. If they're going to come back, be agents and be done with it. I'm just so sick of that. And it's just like, Tommy Dreamer, the dream's over. Dream somewhere else, because I don't care. I want to see new talent, new faces. Have your hardcore whatever somewhere else. This is TNA. We're not about some kind of hardcore whatever. We're here to wrestle, and that's the point of it. And it's just, quit relying on these people. Quit doing this crap. That's enough.
And my thing is, too, I'm going to start this segue off with letting everyone know that I'm the world's biggest ECW mark. I'm a huge mark of the product, and I loved 95 through 2001. I've got every DVD. I've got figures sitting in my face right now. I'm the biggest ECW fan in the history of the world, but I could not agree more. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're in 2014. I got a DVD one time recently of Shane Douglas's whatever the hell, Hardcore Reunion or whatever the fuck it was called. And it's ridiculous.
Was that the first? Was that the first one in the Golden Dome?
Yes, it was. And I picked the DVD up, and I was excited to see some of the names that I haven't seen in a while around. And it was horrible. I mean, it was guys trying to relive stuff that was cool in '98. I mean, this is 2014. Balls Mahoney's got no teeth in his mouth, and none of the guys can wrestle. Sabu's got more scars than he's got wrestling moves now. And I mean, Justin Credible's probably picking Scott Hall off the floor. I mean, there's just so much going on. These guys trying to do the same stuff they could do, 15, 16 years ago. It's not working anymore. Those guys couldn't work. I saw one guy on the entire DVD that could still wrestle, and that was Guido. Guido was the only guy that could actually work. And so, I mean, I'm definitely over this whole extreme reunion sort of thing. We've done the reunions for the last 10 years, if not more. But let's put it to bed now. The reason ECW was so special was because it was, once again, it was the time period, it was counterculture, it was different, and it was current with their time. So let's be current with our time now. Let's make something new based on our current pop culture situation. Let's try and do something different for this day, because ECW was good because Heyman used all the talents he had to the best of their ability. He always said he hid the weaknesses and he exemplified the strengths, and that's what Dixie needs to do with her guys, not make them into ECW guys, not turn them into Hogan and Flair Part 2. She needs to take the guys that she has and say, what can you do and what can you not do, and let's try and make that come across on TV.
Yeah, it's simple. It's a simple formula. Be who you are, just a little bit more pumped up. And I don't think they have a direction for a lot of these guys. Like Kenny King could be something really
Absolutely.
special. They waste him. I mean, I like the King of the Night thing, but make a purpose for him. Make him this top heel that you can feed off, but you need someone else to feed off him. So you put like an all-American kind of guy against him. Like he's the sleazy Knight kind of guy. Well, then you got to put somebody else that's a total opposite of him. I think, he would have been good for Eric Young if Eric Young wasn't the champ and it was like a little bit of a different time. But, Brandon was just reminding me of the Aces and Eights. Oh my God, was that terrible? But that could have been really something good if they would have been like more of a terrorist organization, and it was like all the former kind of like owners, like a Vince Russo, Paul Heyman, and somebody else, and they were like this threat. That's a whole other story. But
it would have been nice.
Yeah, my thing with Aces and Eights, I don't know. They kept bringing in guys that, once again, I had no interest in seeing. I mentioned earlier, even though it was a one-shot deal with bringing in Zeke Jackson and Snitsky, I mean, it was another case of that for me. It was bringing in Mike Knox and who were some of the other guys in the group?
The Briscoe's son
or cousin
or somebody.
West,
I mean, it was
Briscoe and
no Mike's still there. There was Bischoff's kid, and there was I don't remember. There was the other guy too that
Luke Gallows.
And that's what I mean. Like again, nothing against those guys because Luke Gallows is a hard worker, and I've heard he's a nice guy. And same with Knox. I mean, I actually enjoyed a couple of his things on SmackDown when he was the bearded, creepy, weirdo guy. But it's like you're bringing in these guys that aren't well known by casual audiences, and that they're guys that were never big with Vince's company. So why are you going to spend all this time unveiling all these guys? And then you had Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe, who were greener than Jolly Green Giant's dick. I mean, they ain't going to get any work done. I mean, what are you doing here? You're mixing a bunch of mid-card guys in the other company with a bunch of guys that can't work now, and there was nobody really in that group that I saw that fit there besides Bully, I guess.
Yeah, there could have been some other people, like some better off kind of heels, but I mean, it just wasn't a good because it was a group of guys that just had nothing in common, and they were all just put there. You got to have something mesh like naturally, and I do like the one guys I like are these other guys. Like I know Robbie E and all that. I thought that was good for the time. They had Snooki, but the thing I noticed with him is he doesn't have a manager. He doesn't have that guy that's like the nightclub promoter that keeps those two guys in check and has a purpose for them being there.
Some sort of fat, balding Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a sports jacket with the sleeves rolled up.
Yeah, like a Rico Suave kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's all you need, but they don't think like that. And they're just, I think it's time to end that gimmick too. But I just think with TNA sometimes it's just a giant headache to watch, and I'm just tired of them scraping at the bottom of the barrel to just make something happen. And like New York, they're scraping for the Dudleys. They brought in Muda. I read he didn't get a pop, and I'm like, oh, I wonder why, because he hasn't been on national television since like 2000. No wonder no one knows. The Muda's not your guy. Wrestle One's not your answer. I'm sorry.
And I mean, having Sanada turn on him wasn't really going to help either. I mean, Sanada's not really an established guy, and he's already a guy that's been faced, so they had to turn him heel in 30 seconds. So it was useless. But I think for me now, if I was going to bring a group in like an Aces and Eights, if I was going to do something like that, I would have made it a bunch of the guys that the company had screwed over in the past. I would bring in guys that they had already cut, that they could say, listen, we're established TNA guys. We helped build this company up from Wednesday night pay-per-views in Nashville to being on TV nationally, and we've done all these things for TNA, and they underpushed us, and they cut us, let us go. Make it a real-life sort of storyline. Bring in Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin. Bring in Jay Lethal. Bring in, AJ Styles to be the leader, whatever. I don't know. Like, you bring in 5 or 6 guys that TNA has cut for no reason, that the fans were always behind, that can actually wrestle, and have them say, I don't know why, Dixie's running things the way she is, but it's our time to take over now. Then you have a group full of guys that can actually wrestle the fans want to see, that can bring back your X Division or whatever, and can actually establish a real meaningful storyline, something like a CM Punk thing that feels real.
Yeah, I mean, the best storylines, like you said, are off reality. And instead of Aces and H, you have, like, the Elite Eight, and it's like that group. It's like Daniels, Joe, Kazarian, all those guys, maybe Jerry Lynn, whoever, and they're just pissed.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me, duh. I mean, but they don't know. They just, Devon Dudley and everybody running around, Mr. Anderson being in and out half the time. It was so bad, and it's just sad. It's just sad. There's just not that. They need a booker in there who knows what they're doing. And then, like, quit bringing in WWE people, because I'm sure they don't give a rat's behind about the company. Why would you bring in your competition's people? I mean, can you trust them? I wouldn't. Get them out of there.
Right.
My God.
Well, there's an interesting theory behind that. And why does Vince Russo keep getting all these jobs?
Mm-hmm.
There's one very important reason. How many people out there in the job market, if you have a new wrestling company, and you don't know anything about wrestling, how many people out in that job market have the resume of Vince Russo?
There's a few, but not too many.
Yeah, not too many. Probably. So Russo, if you don't know any better, Russo's your best bet if you really can't do a Google search.
I mean, I like what they did with Sports Entertainment Extreme. The problem with that was he left like 2/3 into it, and then nothing. He came back. Glenn Gilberti was the leader, and he beat the crap out of him, and then they just broke up the next week. That didn't make sense. There was like unfinished business there. I think he should have did more with that. I think that could have went a long way, but it's times are changing here, and these New York tapings, they want to reboot it, and Kurt Angle's the new GM guy or whatever.
So the good thing that I can say about Vince Russo, I will step into his defense a little bit, is that he does have some positive things. Like he does book certain characters and gets the affinity for certain characters more than other workers do, because he was around Vince for so long, and he was around talents like Rock and Austin during the Attitude Era for so long, that he does book some things really well. I mean, he was part of the Goldust character when he first came out in '95, doing the movie things and the homoerotic character. It was believable. It was a lot better than when he was stuttering and doing all the weird stuff that he does now. But then, like, for example, he also, like in TNA, he brought in Raven, and Raven was a big deal again, because Raven was always the top guy until Vince got a hold of him. So then once he got cut from WWF, he went to Vince Russo, and Russo made Raven a big deal. So Russo does have moments of clarity where he actually realizes certain guys can be used to better potential. But if you look right now, like we're saying, at the job market, how many guys are actually known writers that you can actually go to and trust? I mean, Paul Heyman right now is off the market. There's no Paul Heyman right now. So all you have is Matt Conway is working for TNA right now. He's Vince Russo's guy. You have Dixie Carter, who knows shit about wrestling. I mean, who else do you have? You have Dave Sapolsky doing ROH, and he's doing Evolve now, and he's pretty good. But, I mean, is he going to be good enough to be a national level guy? I think so too. But, I mean, right now he's tied up with Evolve and Dragon Gate USA. So, I mean, does somebody buy him out of his contract and try to bring him in? Do you think he even want to go at this point? I mean, TNA is almost a lost cause.
There's more people out there. You just got to find them. And I think Vince Russo has a place. I think he's a great manager. You sign him on as a manager, that's it. No creative control, none of that. He's just a manager. And that's a perfect person for the bromans to help them. He's a sleazy guy. He's a New York nightclub kind of owner. He's a great manager. I think that's what... He's a perfect heel, but he's not the heel that you want as the owner of the company. He's just a good manager. I think that's what you should keep with him. That's one thing he did so well, Sports Entertainment Extreme, because he was just like saying, this company's garbage and I don't care. And he was just all over the place, and it was fun to watch. But he doesn't believe in quality wrestling, which is a problem, and that offends fans too, which I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
New York Tapings, we saw the Hardys against the Wolves or whatever. Do I care? It's not really a passing of the torch because they haven't been there as a team for years, and they're WWE guys. So why should I really
Right.
Be interested, I guess. It's a dream match.
The one thing that I will say about that match or whatever, it was either that match or the Dudley's match, but I heard that Jeff Hardy actually dove off the top of the turnbuckle to the outside on a pair of steps, steel steps that were unprotected by anybody. He did the swanton bomb from the top rope to the steel steps. So I will say that Jeff Hardy gives zero craps about his life at all. Jeff Hardy is definitely a big spot guy that is willing to risk his body. So I give props to Jeff for risking his body for almost nothing. But I mean, other than that, like you said, I mean, it's a bunch of older guys that, if they're not passing the torch, what's the point of doing it, I guess?
It's just desperation. And I think a lot of these guys are responsible for what I call junk wrestling. It's just throwing moves all together and not having a match. Like, people get all excited at these indie shows because someone can do a Canadian Destroyer and then a DDT and then a flying suplex and whatever. Have a freaking match. Have rhythm. Have a purpose. You can watch a match from WCW from like 93 and look at a match today in TNA and go, oh my God, who trained these people and why? They're not having matches. They're just walking around. They're doing spot after spot. I'm sick of that. I want to see my style of wrestling. And that sparked me one time when I saw the Wrestling Cup. They had the X Division Wrestling Cup thing. They brought in a tag team from New Japan, and they wrestled. It was like Alex Shelley, and he was doing all his goofy shit. And the other Japanese guy was wrestling like a Flying Brian or Ricky Steamboat would from that time period, almost any WCW type of guy. And I'm like, wow, that's what I miss, like actual wrestling, like an actual match where like there's a purpose and he's having a match. Because I think a lot of these X-Stars kind of ruin wrestling for me. No offense to them, but I'm sick of all this shit. I don't want to see Lucha Libre and all that all over the place. That ruins the whole business. You can't constantly do these goofy high-flying moves and all this crap and have a purpose in the ring. It's just ridiculous. It makes me go like, you know what, I want to leave. I honestly want to walk out. When I watch some of these guys, I'm like, change the channel. If I was at an indie show, I'd probably leave because I don't want to see that. I want to see wrestling. Wrestling's two guys getting in there, doing moves, but taking their time. Having a match.
The thing that really bothers me is whenever they don't sell things. I can deal with the high-flying stuff to an extent.
Yeah, they do.
But it comes to a point where the high-flying stuff's cool when it's fun to watch at a time to an extent, but you can't have 9 matches of those on the same card. That's the thing. And
that's all they want to do.
Nowadays, there's no Dean Malenko. There's no, Nigel McGuinness. Desmond Wolfe in TNA for a while was doing really good with technical style matches. But I grew up on the Benoit, the Malenko, the Guerrero, those guys that could do both. They could high fly and they could do high impact, but they also were technically grounded wrestlers that knew chain holds and knew how to slow a pace down as well.
Yeah, and some people don't like chain wrestling, and that's fine. But like just the basic knowledge of wrestling, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like anyone does that anymore.
There's no ring psychology. There definitely is no ring psychology
The
anymore.
Wolves are just as guilty. They do that goofy kick, and they're not martial artists, so stop doing that. I just don't see the point of it. Why are you doing this? It's ridiculous. It's different if there's a guy and his gimmick is a martial artist, like Steve Blackman, who barely did martial arts in wrestling, which I don't understand anyway, but he was so big on his martial arts, I never saw a damn move from him that was really martial art-esque, except a couple chops and some kicks, but nothing special. I saw him kick Kurgan one time in the Rumble, almost took his head off. I'm like, well, where's that been? And that's all I saw out of Steve Blackman. But, I don't understand. They wear these kick pads. They look stupid because they're not martial artists. So to me, if the gimmick isn't there, then stop it. Stop wearing these kick pads. Like AJ Styles, he's not a martial artist. What are you wearing kick pads for? And all these guys, they go buy these kick pads and all this crap from eBay and high spots, and they get in the ring, and to me, it takes your credit away. Because if you're not a martial artist, then what the hell are you? It doesn't look right. It looks odd, and to me, it's just stupid.
Yeah, and what's funny is we've almost.
I agree.
Yeah, I was just going to say that basically, for me, it's kind of gotten like the opposite of what it should be in wrestling, because we're always taught, as fans of wrestling and people that want to get into wrestling, that you're supposed to make the action look as real as possible and make it look like you're hurting each other while you're not actually getting hurt. But what it's become now in 2014 in the indie section and a lot of Japan and even some mainstream TNA stuff is that they're actually kicking and punching each other as hard as they can because they don't know how to fake it well, and they actually are hurting each other. So now instead of getting the enthusiasm of a good-looking match, you're actually no-selling each other and kicking and punching each other as hard as you can, and it's all real, and you're hurting each other. So now, there's no selling and there's more striking, and it's all just, I don't know, it's ridiculous to me.
It's stupid. James Storm's doing this, and I'm like, that's just so unbelievable. Stop it. It doesn't fit your persona. One or two guys can do that, and that's enough. Like, the Wolves, they're all guilty. Austin Aries, all these guys, Joe, they all do this crap, and I'm like, that's enough, knock it off. Like, it's too much. It's just too much, and it's just like, when is this going to turn into something I want to watch? I don't think it will.
Is there anybody, I'll become the interviewer for a second, and I'll ask you, is there anybody currently right now in either one of the big two companies that you think has the potential to be your next money-making star that works a style that you enjoy?
Well, I'll tell you two guys in the Indies I liked. Cole Cabana and what's his face, Adam Pearce, when they had that best of 7.
Oh yeah,
that was wrestling. That was wrestling to me. Oh my God,
so good.
We're having a match. That's amazing. It's hard to say because WWE I don't watch, and in WWE they don't let them be who they are anyway. So to me, I can't really judge upon that. TNA, I don't really even know the current roster. Let me think of who's there. Not too many people I really care about.
I think Rude's a guy that could be a star.
Yeah, that's the guy. If I had to pick somebody, Robert Roode, because he does wrestling. He doesn't do all these goofy ass moves and all that stuff that gets you nowhere. Robert Roode's one. I thought possibly Christopher Daniels, but he's got to get rid of that stupid Disco Inferno look, and he's got to I don't know. I think he's too old now too. I mean, time's come and gone with him. But he was another guy that could tone it down. He wouldn't get so ridiculous. But let me look through. I have to actually pull up the TNA roster because I don't know.
While you're doing that, I will endorse Kenny King. I think Kenny King is a guy that I look at him and I kind of see a Sheldon Benjamin sort of an athlete. He has kind of the positive, like the small heel. He's very athletic. He has a good build to him. He has a good look to him. I think Kenny King could be something special. But he's definitely a guy that I think
they just got to stop doing these spot moves.
Yeah. Right.
If I was backstage, knock off the spot moves. Knock off these goofy combination moves unless it's your finisher or you're getting close to the finish because it's ridiculous. Let me see who's around here. I'm looking. James Storm at one point I thought, but he's just, who cares anymore? Magnus is another one. I do like Magnus. I think with time you could turn him into something, but the British accent and all that kind of discredits him. Samuel Shaw is another one I look for. He could be something. He's already kind of turning into something.
Well, aren't they actually changing his gimmick now, too? Aren't they making him like a face now already?
I don't know. He's in the asylum with Gunner. That could go any way. I'm not 100% sure. Gunner, that's a guy you can't waste any more time with. Time's come and gone. It's not there. It's not going to be unless he's got a manager. He's a great guy. God bless him, but no mic skills and really there's just nothing.
I think part of the problem is I really wanted to endorse Storm too, but I think Magnus. I really was a fan of the Magnus heel turn in the suit, and he was a good corporate champion. He was a good guy for Dixie to have as his camp guy. Yeah. But then they booked him like an idiot though. He was champion for however long as he was around,
exactly.
And then he had 5,000 run-ins for every single one of his matches, and they booked him like he was a complete coward. And it's like, I understand heels are going to be scared of faces, whatever, but you can't make this guy your next champion and then make him look stupid in all of his matches.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time. And actually, this is interesting. They just put up an alumni section, so once again, comping off WWE. Pretty much, it's like, wow, this is what the roster should be, but it's not. I liked another person that kind of comes and goes, and he's there and he's not. Doug Williams. I really liked him. I thought they could have did something with him. I felt like they kind of wasted him. But that was another guy I really liked. But some people say, oh, he's boring. But too bad. You know what? You got to take time to develop people. But if there was one person I would bank on, it'd definitely be Robert Roode. Magnus, that's another guy. And Samuel Shaw, I think you can make something out of him. That's all I'm really seeing right now. And then just someone that was in the past too I liked was when they brought in Desmond Wolfe. God, they booked him right. He had it, but then unfortunately he got sick. I mean, even before he got sick, he was still pretty hot.
His stuff with Angle in 2010. It was 2 months before they brought Hogan and Bischoff in. The two main events of the company they had for pay-per-views were Styles, Daniels, and Joe in 3-ways, and then they had Kurt Angle against Desmond Wolfe. And Angle and Wolfe had about two of the best matches I've seen in a long time. Technical wrestling back and forth. One was 2 out of 3 falls, and one was a regular match. It was in November and December 2010. If you get a chance to check those out, those are phenomenal matches.
Oh, yeah, they booked him right. And if Hogan wouldn't have came in. But see, my biggest problem with that was they needed a roster change, and I'm glad we got. I don't like who we got, but at least there was a change up a little bit because their roster is so poor all the time. It's just like, eh. What do you think, Brandon?
I'm just so fed up with TNA at this point.
Care.
I'm so like, we sat here 2 years ago bitching about the same thing. We've been here like a year ago bitching about the same thing. We were here 6 months ago bitching about the same thing. We were here how many weeks ago bitching with Eric about it.
Yeah.
Look, these problems are still going to continue until TNA runs out of money.
Yep.
And part of the problem is Spike TV hasn't renewed their contract yet for the next year, I don't think. So they could be out of TV soon.
They could be. They'll survive on the internet for a while, though. I mean, people will watch. But
I don't know. If you can barely get people to come to your shows.
If you're getting a .9 now on Spike TV, I think you're going to get much less on the internet. So I think if they lose Spike, they're done. It's like WCW. If you lose your TV, I think you're finished.
I don't know. I think the internet's a new medium, and I think if they, if it's on enough, people watch it for a while. I think the curiosity will come back too if they, if they're on Fox or something and they switch, which I doubt they will. They'll be on Spike. I think it could spark interest, but you're gonna have to bring someone in there that's gonna spark the interest. I don't believe CM Punk left WWE. I think it's all BS, and he'll be back in a month. It's just he's taking time off because he's hurt. But if they went out, they went dead for 3 months. That's the guy to bring in, and you focus the company around him. It's a name, he can go, and there you go. And it just opens up a whole bunch of feuds. That's the guy to focus your company on to help the other guys too. But I'm not seeing a roster here I really care about. It's pretty boring and stale and just lame. Do you want to talk anything about New York? Was there anything else that was really significant? I mean, Dixie's done. I don't know if you know that, but they put her through the table and they wrote her off.
She was written off like 2 months ago when MVP won the whatever cage lockdown team, whatever, and she was gone for 2 months and came back. So that's the thing. She came back 2 months later, so there's no telling whether she'll come back or not. I think the cool thing about the New York tapings for me was that they brought in Brian Cage from PWG. He's a jack-up guy that can actually move. He's a talented guy that deserves the look. They brought in Homicide, who he's hit or miss, but he's believable in his stuff sometimes. He's really hit or miss, but I like him. Loki came back. He's back with the company now. He's actually managing the X Division, so he's going to try and get them to kind of work, more solid matches. I'm a huge fan of Loki myself. I don't know how you feel about him, but I think that I know he was in the final three-way for the X Division title. So I think the focus on the X Division was cool in New York. I think the crowd was hot. I know there was a lot of chants and crazy. I know there was Chris Benoit chants and a lot of crazy stuff. So I know the crowd's going to come off well on TV, hopefully. But I don't know. I think for me that there's got to be, like you said, some big change. And I know it's not going to be CM Punk because I honestly, I've met Phil a couple times. We've said hello at a couple indie shows he did around here, and I've talked to him a decent length in the past. And I know that he gets really frustrated with bad booking. He talked about TNA to me a lot when he was there. And it's kind of the same thing now. I feel like he's really kind of let down by how the company is. There's no change that he wants. The indie guys, the guys that can actually, sell and make money, the future stars, aren't getting pushed properly. So I think Punk is actually retired, or at least until WrestleMania main events come around for him. But I don't think he would ever go to TNA again. He has bad blood with them as it is. And if he thinks that Vince and WWE are frustrating to deal with, then I can't imagine what his mind would be like going to TNA. I think he'd explode.
Well, why do you leave TNA?
The problem with them was he was saying that him and Julio De Niro, he'd get told they'd walk to the building whenever it was Punk, Raven, and De Niro. They would go to the building and they would get their match sheets, and they would be told they were going on, like, say, 6th, and they would get about, 12 minutes in the ring. And by the time they got to their match, they'd go up, they'd get pushed up to, 3rd or 2nd without being told, and their time would go down to, 2 minutes. And so there would be, a period, he said, of, 2 months in a row that he would go up and him and Julio De Niro would get a tag match on Explosion or whatever for, they'd have, 2 minutes or a minute and a half to tell their whole story. And so they would always change the stuff without telling them. And then sometimes he'd get there and they would say, well, we're sorry, we told you you're booked, but you're not booked. So he was going out there for no reason. And they just had no idea how to manage talent, and they had no idea how to build a feud. And he would go to them, and him and Raven would talk about storylines, and they would say, we're going to do it, and they wouldn't actually do anything with it. So he just felt like he was tired there, and he just left. So I mean,
because I'm watching TNA. I'm on episode 8 now of that. They're pretty hot right now. They're fighting the Sandman and Terry Funk, and they're gonna feud with Raven again. So I mean, I think it wasn't too bad. I can understand some frustration, but dude, you gotta pay your dues too. I mean, these guys, they get so wrapped up into this, it gets ridiculous. Like, you know what, you're getting a paycheck.
Yeah, but I mean, CM Punk to me is one of those guys that comes along that could actually, really revolutionize something. I think he did. I mean, I do think that he inspired some of this change, and I do think that part of the reason how we have, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose and Daniel Bryan getting pushed so hard is because guys like Punk came in and showed Vince that ROH guys and indie guys can actually draw money if you give them a chance to. And I think that someone like Punk he could draw money for anywhere. I think if he ever does decide to do a WrestleMania again, or he does decide to do like an ROH one-time deal looking to go back there, I think he would sell the place out. So CM Punk is money on the mic. I think he has a lot of charisma. He's really good with the microphone. He's good in his matches. He can tell a story. He can work any style. I think someone like Punk can really make a difference. And I think that's why he's so disheartened, because he was champion for the longest of anyone's been champion in the last 25 years. And then he goes in against Taker for WrestleMania, has this amazing, match, pulls this great match out of this 45, 50-year-old guy. And then he never gets a chance to main event when he's champion. He never gets pushed like he's the number one guy. It's always Cena. And then, he has that match. He blows his leg out. He comes back and they tell him, well, you're going to feud with Kane again, and you're going to feud with Triple H. And he never gets a chance to actually be the top guy, and that's what he's frustrated by.
Very well put.
Yes.
Well, we're going to wrap up the show tonight.
Oh, no.
No,
I was going
you
to say
finish.
that basically, whether it comes down to TNA or WWE, I think the biggest thing is you have to put new guys at top. I mean, people are so disheartened by Vince because they have Cena and Orton and Batista, the same guys that were pushed 10 years ago, are being pushed today. And the same with TNA. The same guys you've had up there are guys that are up there now, or there's nobody anybody cares about. You've got to invest your time and your money into new stars, and you've got to be able to put guys on the microphone and in the ring that can actually make money. And that's the problem with TNA, and that's the problem with Vince, and that's why wrestling is in the state it's in right now, is you've got to create new stars.
Right.
That's a good note to end on. Yes, sir. Thank you guys very much.
Well, we thank you, Jason, for being on the show.
Jason, that was really great. We appreciate your time. And you want to push what your charity you're trying to start up again?
My activism charity, my charity foundation I'm trying to formulate and get things going with is called Causes for Hope. So anybody that wants to get hold of me can find me on Facebook at Jason Burke, Burke, and do that. I also have several NBA, NFL, wrestling articles that you can look up for me on armchairreport.com, profootball-fans.com, yahoo.com, and I've got a book coming out of a poetry compilation that I've written in 2 months through Amazon.com, and it's called Never Say Goodbye.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon.
Oh, we appreciate you being on the show
Absolutely.
today.
I'd love to come back and do it again sometime.
All right. Take care.
Take care, guys.